Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll Masechtas Kiddushin Daf Yud Beis. We're going to begin on Yud Beis Amud Aleph by the first wide line, about 9 lines from the top. The Mishnah said, "Ubeis Hil Omin Bepruta." So we know that one of the 3 ways a person can be Mekadosh an Isha is by giving kesef or shava kesef, something of monetary value. Now the question is, how much is required? So we learned in yesterday's daf that Beis Shammai says that it's necessary to give a dinner, which is substantially more than a pruta. Now, the more logical interpretation is Beis Hillel, who says that it's a pruta, shava pruta, because that is the minimum amount of something which has monetary value. And therefore, Beis Hillel says that is the amount. Now, Sabar Rav Yosef al-Meimar, he felt to say that pruta is kol dehu. A pruta is any amount. Now, what does that mean? It says Rashi, Kolma shahadoros mishanim esamatbeya. Now, if we go through all the generations, whenever we change the coin, when it comes to shipochasin, pa'amim shemosifim mishkolim, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. So, in other words, when Beis Hillel said it's a pruta, it didn't just mean the current value of a pruta in his generation, but it meant also in future generations, and that of course could fluctuate in value. It's hard to understand because they were very specific. He said, how much is the pruta? It's 1/8 of an Italian isser. Now, why did he have to say it that way? It must be because he's saying that it must have that minimum monetary value. Maybe it's only referring to then, but here we say whatever is considered to be of value to people. He mentioned the measurement in his generation. Kama he pruta echad mishmoina b'isri talki, 1/8 of an Italian isser. Pruta, how much was it? So you actually have 2 different opinions. One says it's 1/8, one says it's 1/6. Now the Gemara is going to explain later on what exactly this is machlokas. Look at Rashi, masabel afana beisha sheskach bepruta, because what happened was a woman actually was mekadosh with a pruta, with this exact coin. So basically, he said it must be equivalent to 1/8 of an Italian isser, and the fact that it wasn't, he said that was not accepted. Okay. Now, of course, as a sidebar, again, we have to understand why one says 1/8, one says 1/6. But the more pressing question is that we see clearly that it's not just the pruta kol dehu. So Amalei Rav Yosef hachi hainu d'tnina, but we also did learn, if you want to tell me that you cannot use a pruta less than that, but I'll show you in Toras Kohanim we learn the following: Save a choshev kama prutos. Go and calculate how much prutos bishnei seloyim, or in 2 sela yoysim el payim, more than 2,000. So if you want to know how much are in 2 seloyim, there's more than 2,000 prutos. Now we're going to see if that's true. Now hashta al payim ulhavin, 2,000, it doesn't even equal 2,000. Yesim al payim karlu, how can he say there's even more than 2,000? So based on the calculation, as Rashi says over here, he says that really the amount should not be 2,000. So it says Yesim al payim karlu mishnazu shnuya etzel nehenim in a hektish. That has to do with someone who gets hana from hektish. Shemevi al hanos pruta ashim bekeser shkom sevachashim lehisrachik min aveira shamal shayg sarach kapar gadol kiganzu. That even if all you do is get hana, this small amount, so there's this great punishment. Now, what do we see? Now, we're saying that each sela, 2 sela is worth over 2,000 prutos, but we have to understand, and the Gemara is going to actually break this down. 1 sela is equivalent to 4 dinarim. which of course is the dinner in which Beis Shammai mentions. One dinner is 24 isurim. One isur are 8 prutos. So therefore, if you would multiply the 4 dinarim times the 24 isur, so that you get 96, which means there's 96 isur, 96 prutos to one dinner. Just to give you an idea, that is a significant difference between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. But more than that, if we want to know how much is one selah, you would do 96 times 8, which would be 768, which means that there's 768 prutos equals one selah. If you multiply 768 times 2, that's 1,536. So it's hard to understand how we could say it's yoser melpayim. It's more than 2,000. It's not even close. It's 1,536. Okay, we'll have to understand that. And how I got to those numbers, you'll see in a second. So kivan denafgahu mepalga karbo payim karle. Because it got more than half, we call it closer to 2,000. So again, it's not more than 2,000, but like we round up. Once you get to 5, 1.5, you go up to 2. So since we're dealing with 1,536, so since it's closer to 2,000, we round up to alpayim. Even though again, it's not 2,000 prutos to equal 2 soyim. All right, cool. Getting back to what we said before. Kiyasa Rabdimi, Amr Shir Rab Simoi Bidara Kami Hebrew Pruta Acha Mishmona Besari Talki 1/8. And as we mentioned, Kiyasa Ravin, Amr Shir Rab Dustoi Rav Yana Rabbi Yishu Kami Hebrew Acha Mishishi Besari Talki. So you have 1/8 or 1/6. So Amalei Abayil Rabdimi Neima At Ravin Bepulta Dahani Tunai Miflagisu. Must be that why do you say 1/8 or 1/6? It's probably totally on the following. Desanya. We learn as follows. Pruta She'amr Chachamim Echa Mishmana B'Suri Talki. So we said that it is 1 pruta is equivalent to is 1/8 of an Italian Isser, which is, you want to flip it the other way around, as we said. Therefore, it would take you 8 prutos to get to 1 Isser. Sheish ma kesef, dinner. 6 ma of kesef equals a dinner. One ma is equal to shnei pundyoinin. 1 pundyoin is equal to shnei isarin. 1 isar is equal to shnei musmesim. 1 mismes is equal to shnei kuntarankin. 1 kuntarank is equivalent to shtei prutos. Now let's just break down these numbers without reading the actual name of the currency. Let's look at the numbers. You have 6. Actually, let's start. You have the 6, and then 2, which is, so 6 times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 2 is 48, times 2 is 96, times 2 is 192. Okay? Nimsa pruta achas mishmayde be'isri talki, which again it's 192nd of a pruta, or it takes 192 prutos to be able to get to this final currency. So, and we said it's 1/8 of an Italian Isser. Now again, you don't even the nimsa pruta achas mishmayde be'isri talki is pashut because it just says beferish. It says it that echad mishmayde be'isri talki. Okay, but the idea is it's 1/192. Okay. Rav Shimon Migmul Aimer Shmait, which is 1/192. Rav Shimon Migmul Aimer Shloisha Hadrisin Lama. So we have 3. Let's just do it. Let's do the multiplication straight up. Shnei hanitzin lahadris. So 3 times 2 is 6. Shnei sheminin, 2 sheminim is lahanins. So now we're up to 12. Beis prutos is l'shaman. So we have, let's see again. 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24. L'shaman nimsa prutacham shifshin. Okay, so basically he's saying that if you look at the currency above, which is the same, the difference is that we end up going to 144th. It's 144th. So Le'emudamar Aimer Katanakama, Rav and Diamer Karav Shem Gamliel. So we have this machlokas. How much is its equivalent? Okay. So Amalei no Ben Ludid Ben Ravin Alib the Tanakama V'Lei Kasha. We can both be going like the Shit Tanakama. Hadi Akar Isuri Hadazol Isuri. One is when it's worth a higher amount, and one is a lower amount. Hadi Akar Isuri when it's worth more. Kum Esim V'Arba Bezuzah. So then a zuz is equivalent to 24 Isser. Hadazoil when it's lower, kum tlasun train bezuzah. Then 1 zuz is equivalent to 32 isser. So again, so what is the difference if it's 24 or 32? Because you have to still do times 6. So if it's 24 times 6, you get to 144, and 32 times 6 is 192. So that's the value of an isser. The value of the isser has changed depending on the strength of that currency. So it's not totally on 1/8 or 1/6, but rather it's totally on the change of the value of the isser. That it could be the equivalent, 1 zuz is equivalent to 24 or 32. And therefore, if that's the case, you would again multiply by the 6, and then you would either have 24 times 6, which is 144, or 32 times 6 is 192. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So I said before that this was 1 sela is equal to, so the reality is that 192 prutos equals a dinner. 192, because there's 24. If you think about it, a sela is comparable to Isser Ha'italki. So what you have, the Isser Ha'italki. So you have 1 dinner equals 24 Isser, right? And we said that for dinner, that's it. 1 dinner is equal to 24 Isser. So we said a pruta is 1/8 of an Isser. Now if 24 Isser equals 1 dinner, so you actually, I said it wrong, it's 24 times 8, which is 192. So it takes 192 prutos to equal 1 dinner. That's the difference, 192. Okay. Amr Shmuel, Kitcheba Tamara, so that's the end of that story. Okay. Amr Shmuel, Kitcheba Tamara, a person is a Mekanish woman with a date, and feel Aimid Kor Tamarim, but dinner, Mikudashas. Even if you have a massive amount of dates, and all of them together would be equivalent to a dinner, we still say it's possibly a good Kiddushin. Even though here, a tamarim, 1 date, is not equivalent to 1 pruta, it's less. But since it's shava pruta, it's possible that that date may have monetary value of a pruta somewhere else. What do you mean it has to be a pruta? So in other words, you're right. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we're going to say it's 100% a good Kiddushin. But we are concerned that in this situation, because of Madai, so maybe this taka is enough, not that we're going to allow them to remain married, but let's say she would be makabel Kiddushin from another person, so then we're going to require a get from both of them. because it's shaykh that it was a pruta, and therefore she's married to the first guy. Maybe it's not a pruta and she's married to the second guy. Okay. Hu gavri di akdish bezavda de urde. So you have this man who is Makadosh, Rashi says, with a gudishal moichin, like a bundle of moich is like some like rags or some type of material. Fine. Rashi brings down the side that says the oidri Yosef Rav Shimi Bar Chia Kamei de Rav. So he went in front of him. The Kama'ayin body was looking into this bundle. In Ilolo. He's trying to figure out, is it taka worth a Shavapruta? So even if it's not worth a Shavapruta, maybe it is worth a Shavapruta somewhere else. He wanted the Kiddushin to be Kiddushin Vadai. Ahu Gavra di Aktish bi Abne de Kuchla. There's a man who was Makdish, a woman with these, Rashi says, Shaya Shachar. It was a black marble, and so it looked something of value. The question is, how valuable was it? Yosef Rav Chisda become Shire Loy, the East Bay Shavapruta in the Lo. I fact more again, V'chi Leis Shavapruta Lo, V'ha Oimer Shmuel Chashinan. So Rav Chisda will Savrle de Shmuel. Now, interesting answer, right? Go straight to Tosfos. Tosfos says, "Hachal matzu shnuye tav kedushi safek no el." Why couldn't they just said, "Well, he was just checking out if it's kedushi vader safek"? Mishum demari shikitsha achiv achar kach bepruta. That this man's brother was mekadosh her afterwards the pruta. V'hayu Rav Chisda v'afgia kedushi rishain. He was trying to figure out how to be able to remove her from the original Kiddushin to see whether or not she needs a get from the first guy. So let's look in Shmuel. So he says, he doesn't hold of the din of Shmuel, of this notion of Chashin Shem Shever Pruta B'Madoi. Doesn't hold of it. Okay. So Amrule Ime Bahahu Yaima de Kidsha Tabi Be Shever Pruta. I'm telling you that on that day that he was Mekadosh with this type of marble, it was worth a pruta, and then it just went down in value. But I'm telling you, it was worth. So Amalei Lav Kol Kaminach Diasartle Abatra. You're not believed to aser on someone else. This is how we see this in Taisus. Lahaid Shaharishin Kiddushin Diasart Abasra, because she was Mekadosh, as Taisus says, the brother. And therefore, the question is, who is she married to, one or the other? So therefore, and the problem again is, if Taka were giving Gittin over here, then the problem is, how can she get remarried to one of these guys? So therefore, it becomes a problem, right? This is Rashi's Dahavi Garushas Achiv. So in this case, we say it doesn't make any difference. We're not going to just start assuming that it was worth a pruta at a certain time, because right now maybe it's not. And if it's not now, we're just going to assume it wasn't a marriage. As we continue base over base, Lav Hainu Dihudis Debisu Rav Chia. This is similar to this story. As Rav Chisda speaking to her, Dehavis Latsar Leda. She had great difficulty giving birth. She was giving birth to twins, as Rashi says. Amrule. So he said to her, Amruli aim, my mother said, Kibel bi'avuch, Kiddushi, that my father was Makabel Kiddushin, Kizutrat, when I was young. Amruli lav kol kamina de'imach, we don't believe her, Yasart lich iloi, to aser you. In other words, it's possible that really you're just saying this because you're worried about having kids, but the truth is, if that's not actually definitive testimony, then we're not going to listen. Amru la Rabbanon Rav Chisda, they said, Amai ha'ika sahadi be'idius diyade dahu yaima havi be shavapruta. We have this place called Idis. It sounds like Idius, which is a name of a place. And people traveled over there. They can tell you that it was worth a pruta. So hashtamiya lo lisnuhu kamon. They're not in front of us now. Lav Hainu Rav Chanina, dear Rav Chanina, Eideha B'tzad As Ton. You have witnesses in the north, V'te'asar. And you think I'm going to start answering them? No. Says Rashi, B'ksuvas Gabi Bante de Shmuel, the daughters of Shmuel, D'ishtabion, that they were held in captivity, V'asinhu l'bei midrash, they went to the base medrash, Rabbi Chanina, V'kimnu l'shuvayihu abas avroi, and the captives were outside, and they were able to basically testify, oh yeah, these women were in captivity. But these women were smart. And ha'amra nishbeisi taharani. As Gemara Ksuva says, it's like a case of pesha hitter, that they said, yes, we were in captivity, however, we were not touched. V'chein idach, the other girls said the same thing. V'tir makahuna, they're allowed to marry a kohen. We have witnesses that are in another location that will be able to testify about this, and therefore they really shouldn't have a pesha aser. Utnan im yesh edim shnishvis v'hi omeres tahira ani eno nemenes. If you have edim, so then they're not going to be believed because that loses their migu. They could have said nothing. Yermahu hashtami alistahu v'edim eden al shivyosen v'natirim. He said, just like over here, they're not here right now, so we're not going to worry about the possibility that they may end up coming. The more answers, okay, Abai Baravel Sviril who Hadrav Chis is a whole like that. Imekil b'shvuya demenavla nasha gabi shavoy nekel be'eshes ish. When it comes to a case of shvuyin, so a woman who's held in captivity, she's going to make herself look physically repulsive, so that no man is going to want to be intimate with her. So maybe that's why we're lenient. However, in a case of Eshes Ish, such as this situation where they're testifying, we have witnesses as worth a pruta, and she's married to the first guy, or we have witnesses that when I was young, they were Makabel Kiddushin on my behalf. So in that situation, perhaps you would think it should be different. Says the Gemara, Ishtar Mahi Mishpach Basura. So there was this family that remained in Surah, and it says Rashi, Shenises La'achar, she got married to someone, B'yaldon gave birth, Uparsh Rabban Mine, and people separated from this family. Vlamishim Desfiril Hu de Shmuel, not because they hold of Shmuel that they're a chayish, that maybe it was a Shiva Prut in Madoi, El Mishim Desfiril Hu Kabayev Rava, but because of Abayin Rava, that since there were Sahadi B'idis, since there were witnesses in another place, we're not going to be makel with her, and therefore, because of that, it became problematic. Question 7. Hahu Gavra de Akdish Ba'avna de Kuchla. So this was a lengthy Gemara. So Al Elu Masim Shahoy Smach Rav Chista the Lav Kol Kamina de Imo Leheda Hu Yoima Havi Shavabruta. Where do we find that we don't listen to this possible testimony that it was a Shavabruta? So Rav Chia Armodabe, so he said to his house, to his wife, the Lav Kol Kamina Lehed, for you to testify, Shavia Kiboba Kiddushin, that your father was Makabel Kiddushin when you were young, via Surah Olav in your Aser. And the case of Rav Chanina, who said regarding the daughters of Shmuel, who were in captivity, and they said the Ashwin Ediya Batsad Asra and V'Tiyasar, just because there are people maybe somewhere in the north, we're going to Aser? No. So therefore, because of that, we were lenient. Again, is it true that we should apply that same kula here by an Eshes Ish, because by a Shvuya, fine. Maybe she has this pesha hitter, because we can imagine she was manuvel, she made herself manuvel, repulsive, but maybe not over here. Okay. Hahu Gavra, the Akdish Bishutisa the Asa. There was a man who was Makadish a woman with Bishutisa the Asa, which is Hadassim, with myrtles, with a bundle of myrtles. So Rashi says, B'shevet bad shel hadas. So B'shuka, and he did this in the marketplace. So it wasn't discreet, it wasn't in a more private setting, but rather was done way out in the open. So Shalcha Rav Acha Bar Huna v'Kamei Rav Yosef Ki Gavna Mai. What exactly do we do in this case? So Shalcha Nagde Karav. We're going to give this guy Malchus because this was an act of pritzus to mekadosh a woman in the marketplace like that. And also, the notion it just shows a total lack of respect to marry a girl in that way, because it almost makes it look like she's for sale, if you will, in a shuk. And we're going to require a get if, let's say, she goes to marry someone else like Shmuel, who says that maybe it's worth a shavaprut and madai. The Rav manged, because Rav would give Malchus al mekadosh b'shukah, someone who's a mekadosh woman in the marketplace, yal ha-mekadosh b'biyah, even though this is one of the ways you could be a mekadosh woman, but that's also not something which is proper. V'yal ha-mekadosh bo shiduchi, someone's a mekadosh woman without a shidduch, without properly vetting one another, and it being done in a very quick, seemingly immoral manner. Ve'al ha-mavatal gita, someone who's mavatal again. What does that mean? So Rashi says, we saw this at great length in Masechtas Gittin, ha-shaleach gel ishta, if you send a get to your wife, v'yagia b'shaliach, and it reaches the shliach, v'yarmulo get shenasati l'cha batal, who, the get that I gave you was, I don't want it, I want you to give it, dimul lo yadi li-inshi debatle, kaidim shiyav yada. Maybe people are not going to know that the husband was mavatalit. Maybe the husband was mavatal to get, and then the shliach gave it, and therefore the get really is not a valid get, but no one knows it, and therefore he causes great problems. So Gemara over there talks about whether or not that's able to be, he can be mavatalit anywhere. He has to do with a beis din to alleviate these issues, but regardless, we give this guy Malchus. And someone who gives moidah, Rashi says, we get habausa b'Yisrael, the moitzi laz al baneha. And it talks about whether it's a Jewish court, non-Jewish court. But if you say, oh yeah, I was coerced to give this get, so it makes it sound like the get was really not valid, and therefore when she gets remarried and has kids, you're basically saying that they're not valid, that it wasn't a valid get, so she shouldn't have gotten remarried. She's an Eshes Ish, and her children are mamzerim. What causes problems to the Rabbanon, if let's say they come to summon you to court, and you start hitting him and yelling at him, and also if a person was in Cherem for 30 days, and obviously you didn't change your ways. And also, interestingly enough, a son-in-law who lives with his in-laws. And Rashi says because he may end up being nichshol, because just like he has a close relationship, obviously, with his wife, he also has a close relationship with his mother-in-law. And therefore, because of that intense emotional relationship, it could intensify to something which could be a lot worse. So the dire in chalaf, you're telling me only if they lived there. However, if he just passes by, not. But we know a guy that not only did he not live by his in-laws, all he did was pass by their house, and all of a sudden he got in trouble. Yeah, it says, yeah, who made them havis? This is a different situation. As Rashi says, Chashdua mimenu, Loshin Duma, Bas Duma. This is a person that was suspect already of potentially being engaged in impropriety, improper behavior with his mother-in-law, and therefore we didn't even allow him to pass by the house. Rav el al the mekadosh babia below shiduchi, v'ikadi amri afil b'shiduchi nami yishim pritzutza. So the truth is, we're not so strict to give malchus like crazy, but if someone's mekadosh a woman with bia and there was no shidduchim at all, that we do. And also in a situation, even if there was a shidduch, because it's a form of pritzus. Okay, let's look at Taisus over here. It says if you're makel in a shvuya, tefil ikas sahadi shenishmas. Even if you have witnesses that she was in captivity, mikol makam lo hayodim im nitma. They don't know if she was actually violated. Im kain enu asura min atayra. Therefore, she's not asur min atayra because those witnesses wouldn't know all the facts. Im kain nakab eishes ish di ikas sahadi de oisa avna de kuchel isba shabapruta havia eishes is gamura. When it comes to that marble, if it was, we have witnesses that was a shabapruta, then she's mamish married. Im kain ein din hu sheneko aleha. So again, the Tosfos alludes to the fact that maybe again we can't be so lenient just because we're makel by shvuya doesn't mean maybe we're going to be as makel by eishes ish. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question 8. Alma mangid rab in yondet Kiddushin. If you're mekadosh woman in the shuk, mekadosh mabia, or mekadosh below shiduchi. So those are the 3 times that would take place. Let's see if there's any more questions. TA no. TB Adkan.